Hey, Dave Adams here. Just giving a bit of an update. I wanted to show you a couple of designs I've been working on. I suppose there's some prototypes that I said I'd be bringing out, and this one, the first one I'm going to show you is a prototype, which is essentially the second prototype. So the first one was way less impressive, and so when you see what it looks like, and I say it was way less impressive, it was essentially handwritten notes on things. It's not much to look at now, but it is basic. But I'll take you through it, and then I'll discuss it a little bit, and then I'll try and explain my thinking, uh, and see where we go from there.
So this is the map. Essentially, what you're looking at is blue are battlegrounds. You've got your kingdom is divided up into several different sections, which is where it gets the name Divided Kingdom. The idea is that you are two different powers within this divided kingdom. That the queen is dead. There's no heir. No one's sure of who's taking the throne, so everyone's fighting to claim the throne. So it's set up as a two-player game, represented by, and this is the capital, and it's split in two. So each power that gets that is competing has their own zone or own sector which they start in. They can spawn. This is where they get to place their troops, and it's from here that they get to launch out around the map and to essentially conquer, which is so it's essentially area control is the main mechanic. And so obviously, like, you can't go into your opponent's side of the city, but that's about the only spot you can't go to. This is meant to be a river, so what I've got is battlefield grounds, which are all blue. Yellow are mining areas, and I've got castles on various locations, and they all give different bonuses at different points of the game, or they all represent different things. The way you win the game is by having overall victory points at the end of the game. So you score multiple times throughout the game for having area control. Different if you own if you control a whole province, that's extra points. If you control battlefields, they're extra points. If you control mines, they give you extra gold. If you control castles, they give you extra troops throughout the game. But yeah, essentially there's bonuses. But while the end game is victory points, there is the chance that throughout the game, if you control all the mines, you win the game. If you control all the mines during scoring, you win the game. If you control all the castles during scoring, you win the game as well. So there are two outright victory conditions which you can claim. Oh, and all battlefields, battlegrounds. So that's essentially, it's a very small map. The idea was to be really small, because I wanted this to be really tight. This is just one little kingdom. It's not a country. It's just here's the capital and people, and you've got these two powers. So you normally choose two powers, and they both have different abilities, and they give you ways of scoring or building gold or giving you some sort of power that affects the game. Problem is, I didn't print them up. I don't know what happened to that. I've used these buttons as tokens, but that's okay. And what we've got here is the way you actually move around the game is you draft cards. So I'm combining two of my favorite mechanics of drafting and area control. Now, while you have your own personal deck, you have your 6 cards, which is pretty standard. So the idea is that you use each card will give you different things. So this is deck 1. That's what the D1 is, and the other deck has D2. And these are your base cards that every person starts with, and they're symmetrical. So the asymmetry comes in the drafting process. So there's a drafting part, which is natural in any sort of deck. So what I've got is a bit of a rondel here, and so this will randomize each game, and the rondel will refresh. But essentially, it just goes up in price. So this is an extra $1 to buy this card, an extra $2. Now they've all got their own costs. $3. So to get this card is a total of $5, which for the first round might actually mean that that card is too hard to purchase for anyone. And they come with different effects. Now, the added bonus thing here, when I first did this, I had it so that once you got up to here, you were having to actually, because the cost goes right up, you were going to have to actually remove a card in your hand from the game. But eventually, when I was talking to Ricky just said, well, why don't you just do that for all of them? And I went, yeah, because what I was going for here was I wanted the overall feel of this game to be a short game. So it's like less than 30 minutes. It's maybe 20 minutes to play. And I wanted that ramp up. So what this means is that you'll never actually have more than 12 cards in your deck. But with each round as you draft cards, your strategy kicks into play much sooner. So you're always using 12 cards, but those 12 cards suddenly rotate around very quickly. And it gives you quite a good ramp towards your own strategy, your own goals, or your own sort of play style. The way you actually play cards is, you can see you've got, okay, so these are different symbols, which I do have the descriptions there, but this essentially means movement. That's summoning, and that's money. So you can, what you can do is each player is going to take turns, but you can discard, let's say I discard those two cards and I choose one of those abilities, so I'll choose movement. That means I'll get 5 movement for that turn. I can go, okay, well, I can move all 3, 1, and then 1, 2, so that's 5 movements in total. Over here is, or I could just move 1. Sorry, I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 5 movements. So what's going to happen is that's going to go back and forth. The way you play a round out is that actually goes back and forth. You have the first round, you draw your 5 cards. You play. Each player has a turn to play a card, and you must play a card, but you can play up to 2. So your turn could be playing all 5 and just choosing the one action. That's the round over for you. And the next player might just play their cards one at a time and choose different actions. You could still do the same, and then it would just be back and forth. But as soon as you've played an action, your opponent plays an action. So it's constantly back and forth. And this goes through for 3 different round stages, and then the round finishes. This is only the final round, so it's a different color. But it essentially means that each player gets the same number of turns. It's just a way of equalizing that out, because each one is 3 really quick rounds, and then you go into scoring. And so there's a few different things for scoring that give you points as well as giving you coins. So I'm not going to go into all of that, obviously, but essentially each round is you draw your cards, you play 5 cards, you have your actions, and then you reset. You go into another. You produce a few things. You draw your 5 cards, play your 5 cards, draw your 5 cards, play your 5 cards, and then go into a full round of scoring. That's a whole round. So essentially, you're using your cards 3 times, except for the final round where it's the 4th. Really quick.
So it is a quick game, and overall, what I was going for was I like area control. I like the idea of a divided country, like a coup sort of event. But the overall feel I wanted people to walk away with was a sense that they had a good area control game, and with good drafting, with a good deck building that actually leads to a strategy. One of the things that really frustrates me with a lot of deck builders is you have these games, like even with Alien, and I played Alien the other day. A lot of the time you don't really get into your strategy into full swing right until the end, when it either doesn't matter or you're dead. With all 3 of those characters that I played the other night, they didn't hit their strat. They didn't hit their groove. I was getting lots of dead hands, and with this drafting mechanic, it essentially means that ideally what I started with are good cards that actually get you playing quickly. So it's not a small. The cards aren't underpowered. So although they're base cards, they just don't lend to a strategy, is the idea. So they're good cards, and you could theoretically play the game without purchasing any cards, because that's an action you can take. Um, or you can choose to remove a card from the game to purchase a new card, and now you still have 12 cards, but now you're starting to build towards a strategy, and you're starting to get cards that work together or build synergy. You're developing different ways of conquering the board, or working towards different, like there are different ways of building strategy. Some of the cards, when I was constructing the different cards I wanted to have, I tried to work towards different play styles and different um, victory conditions. So ideally, there is the potential to think both tactically and strategically, hopefully, but it's all in a 20-minute game. So the idea is I wanted people to have that feeling that they had really built up their power and got it. I just wanted to have that feeling of they'd built a deck that suited them, and they got to see it work. That's what I wanted. Like they had the ability to see it work. Because so many times, in deck builders, you see the decks you start to build your deck, and it's only occasionally I feel like I get that real payoff of my deck is actually working, because I get so many dead cards, or you always have that hand which is just all your base cards, and you're sort of stuck for a turn doing nothing, essentially, or not capable of doing enough. I wanted to get rid of that. I wanted people to feel like by the end of the game, they're not getting those dead hands at all. Every hand is useful. Every hand is strategic. Every hand is doing something to your strategy. So I wanted that real satisfaction of having built a deck. That's the real feeling I wanted. And of course, the chance to play that deck out is through the area control. So you get to see if your strategy works. That's, did you outsmart your opponent? Did you build a better deck than your opponent? Did you use the cards that were available better than your opponent? That's, for me, where I've wanted that satisfaction of the gameplay to come in. So yes, there's the chance to win the game. There's the chance to build, to have great area control, but I wanted that satisfaction of I built this deck and it beat yours. So that's kind of the feeling. That's the feeling that I was going for. That real satisfaction of I did this and it worked, or I did this and it didn't quite work, or they did it better. So it's a risk, but I think it's something that's I find very satisfying about the game, even at this level. Like this is still, even at this prototype, I don't expect to be the same. A couple of things I have to check out is whether the other win conditions actually work. I'm concerned that I've got too many castles or too many mines, and so it's not going to be actually doable for anyone to make that strategy work. The characters, I think, are interesting because they give you different ways to score, different ways to earn money, and so they actually lend themselves towards that, trying to not necessarily make the most optimal play, but to make the play that will still benefit them, or sometimes just setting up plays that will pay out a little bit later. And I kind of like that idea. I want people to feel like it's their personal, like they're playing a character in this. Like this is a real character with a real strategy and real military tactics going on. So there's all that going on. I'm hoping to make that work. This has got to go off and get play tested the crap out of now. So we've pretty much got the thing together. I just need to laminate some cards and print up, obviously, the character cards, which would be good. But need to really deck test. That's where we're up to now. So this is this game. Maybe later in the week I'll show you my other game that I'm working on, and maybe even reveal something else that I'm doing, which is pretty interesting, and that's more of a interactive website or story thing that I'm working on, but I'll save that for another time. Anyway, this is Divided Kingdom. This is first little prototype we're going to be putting out there and trying to get played. Hoping to do it up as a bit of a print and play, but at this stage it's very, very raw, very basic, no real graphics, nothing really special about it. Got 3 pages of rules, which 2.5. I mean, but part of it's also explaining the story. Sorry, I'm losing myself in the picture there. Yeah, it's very much inspired by a couple of games. So 8 Minute Empire, Red Raven Games. So whatchamacallit, who does those, whose name eludes me right now, but he's brilliant. Does all the Red Raven games. Does Above and Below, Islebound, but it's his first one. What I like about it is it uses that. I mean, obviously the area control element is pretty much based on 8 Minute Empire, because I like it. It's simple. It lends itself to a quick game. Um, Makes a lot of sense to me to use that. The 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 actual drafting rondel is just, well, it's just rondel. It's not taken particularly from anything. It's just, I thought the rondel was a good way to draft, and it added to the risk of, well, money's kind of scarce. Like, it's hard to build money, or your spending turns to earn money. So having that amp up means, like, you can get the good cards at the end, but it's going to cost you a little bit extra if you want to get them. And there's no guarantee that they're going to be there, but that rondel resets every round, so it gets wiped clean and then resets, or as well as filling in gaps as cards are bought. So, but there's also the what have I got? The style of playing the cards is pretty much Cry Havoc. I really liked how the cards play out there. It's really easy, makes a lot of sense, it's intuitive, and it causes you to really think about, uh, your card is part of the cost. So if you play it, that's fine, but it means you don't get any of the other abilities on the card. So I want the 5 movement, so I don't have to use the 2 cards or the 3 cards, but it means I don't get to use any of the other abilities on those cards. And I like that decision-making process. I like that sort of, it adds to the whole risk-reward thing, and I think that makes for more interesting gameplay. As for what else is there that's inspired by other games? Oh yeah, the style of, I suppose you could say, the style of map with the battlegrounds, and that is a bit Twilight Struggle battlegrounds, but I've added in, I've sort of, that's about it really, is the battlegrounds being Twilight Struggle. I don't know what to say there, except I really like having those sort of areas that you fight over, but I've tried to add in stuff that makes the battlegrounds are more of a distraction. Like, they're necessary, they're essential, you have to go for them, but I've tried to give weight to the other parts of the province. So, because in Twilight Struggle you tend to just fight over those battlegrounds, and that's it. And the rest is just there in case you need to try and move your pieces there. But I really wanted to try and give weight to the rest of it, and even give a bit of a strategy, so that moving off of the battlegrounds and going after something else can create pressure for your opponent too. So that's my thinking there. Hopefully, yeah, it plays out pretty quick. It amps up really fast in the games that we've played, that Ricky and I played together. The first round is well paced, but it's much slower compared to the third and final round, which is quite lots of stuff happening, and I think the deck building part amps up pretty well. I think it has a good rep to it. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens when we put it out there to be played by others, and see what they say. Anyway, thanks for checking out my Divided Kingdom. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. I look forward to talking to you soon. Any ideas on what you've already seen would be great. Put them in the comment section below. I'll catch you later. Bye.